oftentimes we'll approach someone and go, you leave the drawers open. I really want you to not do this. You leave your cups everywhere. You don't put the seat toilet down. You blah, 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 blah. And subconsciously, whenever we hear you, our emotional gun, like our fists come up. We're like, nope, I'm defending. You're attacking me. Like we hear you and we go into defensive mode right away.
Back to another episode of It Takes Grit. Today's episode, guys, you're going to get so fired up, you're going to learn so much, and you're going to feel like tingly and on fire by the end of it. I'm so excited to be joined by Rachel and Kyle Wright. Guys, how you doing?
Oh, so glad to be here.
Super stoked.
We miss you. It's so good to see your face and be here, and yeah.
I know, it felt like just the other day that I met you in an elevator.
I know, right? I forgot that's how we actually met. That's so
or as we would say in England, a lift. I've learned how to translate.
Yeah.
So for my listeners and anybody who's new listening, can you just tell me a little bit about both of you and what you do?
Of course.
Yeah, so we are co-founders of our own company. We're married. I start with that. We're married, and we started a business together about 5 years ago. It's called Wright Wellness Center. And we help people have happier, healthier relationships by teaching scientifically proven research on what makes a relationship succeed and what makes it fail. And we teach it in an understandable format.
Yeah, we like to say that we help people scream less and screw more.
Oh, I love that. I am definitely more of a screamer right now. I'm going to put it so out there. I don't really talk about, sex and that kind of stuff with my audience. So this is going to be also uncomfortable for me, but great.
I love it.
I had a couple of bottles of wine behind me. I should have just pounded those before we started. Well, that's awesome. So first of all, how did you guys meet?
We met working in restaurants.
Yeah, I was a corporate bartending trainer, and she got hired at a restaurant that I was opening, and we kind of were connected a little bit there. I'm like, this redhead's kind of cute, but she won't stop talking, and that really annoys me.
We hated each other.
We did not like each other at all when we met. I was the stereotypical bartender. I was kind of a dick and sort of made it my way all the time. I had a very aggressive format for.
By kind of a dick, he means a lot.
I would go out of my way.
Like a real big dick.
Yeah, a giant dick.
Yeah. And then, a year after I met her, then she came on the training team too. And that was kind of it. We got to spend more time around each other. And I think I told her I loved her 3 weeks after that. And we moved in 6 months later, and that's it.
Yeah, it's been we met when I was getting my master's degree. Yeah. We moved in together when I started my licensing hours, and we've been together ever since.
Yep.
That's awesome. So for somebody starting off a brand new relationship, and I hear this, that sometimes when you're on the 3 to 5 month mark, it's like am I going to go all the way in or am I not? Because people start to change at that time. So, I actually just had a girlfriend the other day ask me, I've been dating someone, he's different now because he was more attentive at the beginning, and that's what she was looking for. But obviously you set your standards so high sometimes at the beginning, you can't maintain it. What's your advice to people who are out there dating maybe 3 to 5 months in and maybe are unsure right now if they should go down that road or break it up?
I love this question. I don't think I've ever been asked this question. I love it. So I think, first of all, at the very beginning of the relationship, or not even relationship, just dating, set the standard that you just want the person for who they are. Call it out. You're not looking for Mr. Perfect. You're not looking for this perfect version or first date version of somebody. You're looking for just them. And if you haven't done that and you're 3 months in, 4 months in, and you're wondering is this the same person? Are they gonna stay the same? Just ask. You're setting the tone for the rest of your relationship with every date. So if you can just be, I know it's scary and it's vulnerable. It's so freaking vulnerable. But if you can just acknowledge hey, I just want to say, I really like you. And I just want you to be able to be you. I want us to get to know each other for who we are, our flaws and everything. And then that way that standard is there and nobody's expecting and trying to be different than they are and hold doors when they wouldn't hold doors, or order food that they wouldn't eat normally, and like try to scarf it down and not make a gagging face. Like just giving that other person permission essentially to be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And with my boyfriend, I feel like he's created so many more habits. We've almost been together for 3 years. And he always told me, like, you know, he never set the standard like super high, because he was like, I'm not going to set it super high because I'm not going to be able to maintain it. But like, as the years have gone on, there's more things that he's doing now that are irritating me. And honestly, I'm like, where did you pick that up? Like, why are you playing with your hair like this? Like, what are you doing? Do you feel like as you've gone through, you've got your marriage, been married for 5 years, do you feel like there's still little things that irritate you about each other? And how do you communicate for someone to put the toilet seat down, even though you've asked them 3,000 times and they're still not getting it? Like, what's going on with the brain? I'm confused.
Well, what I love there is that you use the really, really stereotypical but very normal guy leaving the toilet seat up situation. I mean, I guess a woman could, if she wanted to, but that would involve her intentionally putting it up afterwards, which would be kind of a weird thing to do. The funny thing here is that I would say out of the two of us, Rachel has more weird little quirks like that. Specifically, beverage containers. Have you ever seen the movie Signs?
Yes.
By any chance? Yeah, where the little girl leaves the glasses of water all over the place and ends up being a plot device later on.
Mm-hmm.
That's Rachel's nightstand, and generally wherever she's been in the apartment, there's like a cup of tea there, it's half finished, there's like this over there, is that over there. And you know, every now and then I'll ask to help, put them all at least in the kitchen near the dishwasher. That way they'll get done one way or another. But I don't know, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's not worth it getting that stressed out about. There's way more things that you can get stressed out about in life, and cups left around the apartment or the toilet seat being up is a pretty minimal thing to lose your cool over.
But I do think that, like, if it represents a lack of listening and then you feel not heard or disrespected by it, then that's a different story. And then it's communicating the feeling that's attached to it, not just complaining about the thing itself.
It's a good distinction.
Right? Because so often, like, so the cups thing, if you just came up to me and said, like, for the 18th time, stop leaving your freaking cups around the house, I would be like, you move them if they're so bothersome to you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you came up to me and said, hey, I've asked you a lot, I feel disrespected and hurt when you don't bring your cups to the kitchen, I'd be like, oh shit, I didn't mean to hurt you. Okay, like, I'll bring my cups in.
Right.
So
the delivery.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And making sure that that feeling is in there and not just complaining about the action itself, because we all have different meanings of what those actions are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. So really the thing is communication. And you talked about, the number one communication tool in relationships. So it's to be listened and to be heard, and your delivery. So how do you guys communicate? Because I feel like what I do, especially with my boyfriend, is that my delivery is sometimes terrible because I'm so rallied up because the drawers are still hanging. Even we went to Hawaii and we're sharing a hotel room with me, my dad, and my boyfriend. And he wanted to unpack everything, like, whatever, I'm not going to unpack. Like, you can have all your stuff everywhere. He leaves the drawers open in the hotel room. On a daily basis, I tell him, like, all you've got to do, and I go, just look, watch me, I'm going to show you how to do it. And he's a firefighter paramedic, so he's got skills, right? He is, he has responsibility. But how can I encourage him in a nice way? Because I feel like after a while you get so rallied up. What's the best way to communicate? With everything.
So let me ask you, when he leaves the drawers open, how do you feel?
I feel like he's just leaving our house messy. And it's like, I'm going to have to clear up. I'm not your mother.
Yes. Okay. So it's communicating that.
Okay.
Because what happens is we say, like, shut the drawers. And then they're like, why does Rebecca-Louise care so much about drawers?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, it's not about the drawers. I don't want to feel like your mom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to nag you. So the best thing with communication is being as kind as possible, having empathy, and when you're listening, listen to understand instead of respond.
Right. And also, I guess, give a reason why.
Yes.
Right. And the important thing about the reason why is not to say you always leave the drawers open like an idiot, because that's going to make someone defensive. But when you say, I don't want to feel like your mother, chances are he doesn't want you to feel like his mom also. So if you make it about your takeaway from the situation and not his specific action, he won't become defensive when you bring it up, because he wants to make sure that you're well taken care of, obviously. And when he sees how you feel around something that he does in a non-aggressive way, it's going to be a lot easier to form an understanding out of that.
Right. So it's going in with a delicate approach, a reason why, and having empathy. So anybody who's listening out there, if you need to communicate something with your spouse or your partner, it's about the soft approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And leading with I statements.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay,
saying like,
explain that to me.
So oftentimes we'll approach someone and go, you leave the drawers open. I really want you to not do this. You leave your cups everywhere. You don't put the seat toilet down. You blah, 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 blah. And subconsciously, whenever we hear you, our emotional gun, like our fists come up. We're like, I'm defending. You're attacking me. Like we hear you and we go into defensive mode right away. Mm-hmm. When we hear it's somebody talking about themselves and we don't go into defensive mode. So if you approach the situation and say, I feel whatever when you leave the drawers open, or I don't like it when you leave the drawers open because it makes me have to nag. And when I nag you, I feel like I'm your mom.
Right.
Then he actually listens, or she or whoever listens long enough to actually hear what you're saying. Instead of hearing that first their defenses go up and then they don't hear a damn thing you said after that.
That's so true. It's about them listening, because as soon as you say something to someone and they don't like it, they're not open to your suggestions, to your solutions, to anything. You're like, I'm done with you. Yeah,
exactly. Mm-hmm. So just as much as it's their responsibility to listen well, it's also our responsibility to deliver things in a way that they can listen.
Yeah. And if you're getting rallied up, maybe take 10 breaths. Yeah, count to 10 and then go in, rather than spoil. Yeah.
And that's something that adults forget. We always think that timeouts are good for children. That's actually not true. Children do not need timeouts. Adults need timeouts, because the value of taking, like you said, 20 seconds outside, take a few deep breaths in, that will do so much more for you when you're in a tense conversation than it would for any child. It's so important for adults to take breaks when you feel that tension start to build in the conversation.
I love that too. And I think it's really important to do that, especially in a text. So what do you guys think about text arguments? Because I've done it myself, where I'm like, I'll have the last word. And I'm like, no, this. And I'm just getting more and more pissed off. And I'm just creating it. And then you're arguing about the argument, and then you bring more stuff in. So texting really is not a good idea at all when you're trying to communicate, is it?
No.
that was a straight up no.
Yeah, just no. I think we've all fallen into this before.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, guilty. Like,
it's so easy. It's like a slippery slope. You're like, where's texting? And well, it's kind of weird. And then this one is kind of weird too. And then all of a sudden you're in a full blown text fight.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Fuck you too. And then you're like, how did we get here? Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
So what I like to do with our clients especially is have them set up a code word that they know means timeout. So one of my clients, for example, they have pineapple is their code word. So if they text each other or say pineapple, that means we need to take a timeout. Like, things have gotten too far. We need to go take our 10 breaths and calm down. And so if you have that code word, even if you're texting, you can text pineapple and your partner will know, like, oh shit, yeah, okay, we got out of control. We need to go breathe. And in person it works too. So yeah, I would avoid fighting over text.
Yeah.
If you can.
Blanket statement.
And then the code word thing really helps to like take a break.
I like that. And okay, so one thing you were talking about is people saying that, happiness, like, when did happy become just enough? Like,
oh, yeah.
What's new happy? And I feel like, for me, I'm like, how do you know when you're truly happy in a relationship? Because you don't always want to think that the grass is always greener on the other side. And then sometimes you're like, hey, I am in a relationship that I shouldn't be in. So, I was actually married before, so I've been divorced. So for me, I definitely knew there was times where I was like, am I leaving something and there's something better out there? And all throughout a lot of relationships, I'm like, if I leave, is there something better? So I guess that's kind of two questions in one. It's like, what is this whole like happy enough? And is the grass always greener on the other side?
I'll answer the second one first, and then you can probably take the happy enough piece.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I think that the grass is always greener thing is something that we do in all areas of our life for everything. Like if you're not a mom, but you want to be a mom, you're like, oh, that baby's so cute. It's like so, and then you're the mom with the poopy diaper and you're like, oh, what I would give to not have this child with me right now, like as much as you love your child. So I think that the grass is always greener thing is definitely something that is normal to a certain extent. But when you're in a really happy relationship, you're not really thinking about that. You're not thinking about, wow, what would it be like to be in a relationship with so-and-so? Mm-hmm. It's definitely more of like maybe sexual thoughts may come up about other people. Like, wow, that guy's pretty hot. Right? Like, cause we're married. We're not,
yeah.
Like we're married. We're not dead. Mm-hmm. So we can still see people and be like, wow, that would be a great person to take home this evening, and then not act on it. But I don't think that there's like a grass is always greener with relationships if you're truly happy.
So you're never, if you're thinking right now, if our audience are thinking right now, I would like to try and see what it's like dating this person, or if I like to see what it's like sleeping with this person, or just going on a date with this person, you think that they're probably not 100% satisfied within their own relationship?
Yes, except for the sleeping with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, it kind of transitions into happy enough. I think that, well, people get caught up being, I don't know, bored in their relationship. They stop getting creative. I think that the issue is, I hate to lay the blame solely at technology's feet, but it kind of 90% of the issue is a technology, in my opinion, because push notifications, our world has gotten so large and so small all at once. We have something in our pocket now that vibrates whenever one of 200 apps you have on your phone goes off. So our distractions are getting worse and worse and worse, and more needy too. Like now you can't call out sick from work very easily. You got to hide on social media. There's so much more attention that goes to our phones, to our computers, outside of our relationship. And so people stop focusing on their relationship that much, and they kind of get it when you've been in a relationship for a while and you get caught in the happy enough problem. It's because you haven't been creative in your relationship for a while, or you haven't really focused on making that relationship as good as possible. It's so easy to fall down the slippery slope of being distracted all the time and taking your relationship for granted, because then you expect that person to be there. You expect the dinner dates, you expect sex, you expect the morning coffee snuggles, you expect these things. But if you're not taking the time to make sure they happen and make them really intentional and make them special every now and then, your relationship is going to start falling into a place where someone asks you if you're happy and you say, yeah, I'm happy enough in it. But you're not really thinking about what you could do to make it truly special.
Yeah, that's so true. And so obviously when you first meet somebody, there's a big spark, there is a spark. How do you maintain that spark? And what happens if that spark goes? What do you do?
So the spark will go. Scientifically, like the chemicals that are released in our brain when we are first with somebody are not the same chemicals that keep us happy in a long-term relationship. And this is one of the things that I really wish we taught. Just like how I wish we taught communication techniques and we taught way better sex ed, I wish that we taught this in school, because we all have this expectation of like, how can I make the honeymoon phase last forever? And the honeymoon phase, if we allowed that to last forever, we actually wouldn't be committed to that person. We would be way more likely to cheat. We wouldn't feel as happy and secure. The feeling of safety wouldn't be there. So instead of trying to like elongate the little first spark period, it's like grow with your relationship and enjoy the things that come after that too. Enjoy the bond and the safety and security. And you can keep your sex life fun. You can keep that sexy and new and fresh. And I mean, there's so many things that you can try to do that. But when it comes to like that giddy, kind of like, oh my God, he texted me, that feeling, like it is going to go away. And part of, I think, the magic of being with someone for a long time is realizing that the lack of that feeling isn't a bad thing. It actually means that you're really happy with somebody for a long time. And so instead of viewing it as something that went away, it's like, look at what we have now.
It's like we gained something. That phase
Yes.
is gone because we're on to the next chapter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so important. And so, you know, when you're talking to, you work with couples all the time, what happens when someone is growing, personal development, and all those things a lot more than the other? So when I first met my boyfriend, I was earning more money than him, but he didn't know. And he asked me if I would have a prenup within the first 2 weeks. I was like, dude, you shouldn't even be asking that. And so I was like, okay, would I have a prenup? I'm like, honestly, you probably shouldn't ask that because, you know, you don't want a prenup with me. But it's interesting because I have my own business, and it took him, goodness, it took him 1.5 years, 2 years to join me in the network marketing company that I'm in. And so he watched me for 2 years having impact, making extra money. And it took him a long time. He hadn't done personal development before, at the same level as I have. And I knew, because I had the boyfriend I had before, the guy that I was married to, he never was going to join the network marketing company. He never wanted to do personal development. And that's why we separated. And I knew that with this relationship, if you weren't able to match my same mindset, my vision, no, I'm not content with where I'm at right now. And this is the type of house that I want for our family. So how do you work with people to, to bring them up so that they're at the same level? Because once you're not at the same path, I feel like you're done because you've got nothing, you're not relatable to each other.
Well, that's takes a lot of the first 3 to 5 months. That's a really important time to make sure that you're on the same page, to make sure the person that you're with is willing to grow. And now if they don't want to grow, that's fine for them, but that clearly isn't going to work for the relationship. So it's really, and if there's a stubborn partner, it's a great way to approach them with an offer like, hey, it seems like you like doing X, Y, and Z. Is there a chance you want to do those 3 things on a bigger, larger scale? Maybe going out to eat. Instead of going to the same taco truck every week, do you want to go drop $3,000 on a dinner for 2? Does that sound good to you? Okay, well then let's make more money to do that. Let's grow our lives a little bit. It's an offering in the relationship and not a, hey, I'm going to do this. You better grow too. That's more of a threat. But if you're like, hey, I see an opportunity to take what we have now and what we like doing, and instead of working out at Planet Fitness, you're working out at Equinox. There's a way of getting there, but it's all about offering to your partner instead of being, kind of letting them drag along, so to speak.
Yeah, I think also too, a lot of people are afraid their partner starts doing personal development work. Let's say, so the first 3 to 5 months, neither of you are in it. Mm-hmm. And then, you're together for 5 years, and then somebody starts discovering whatever it is. At that point, the other partner is most likely really terrified that the other partner is going to leave. So I love your invitation of how can we grow together and meeting them where they are. But at some point, if your partner is that stubborn and is saying no, I like our life the way it is. I like our tiny apartment. I like going to Planet Fitness. I like eating at McDonald's. Maybe it's not the best fit anymore. And that's okay.
Oh yeah.
We grow out of people. We're not friends with the same people for our whole lives. And it can be the same thing with partners. Ideally, it's not, but we've been fed this whole story that we're with one person and we grow together forever. And as ideal as that is, it isn't the reality for everybody. And that's okay.
Yeah. And especially if for me, I got married, I think it was 24, 25. And then, about 2 years after we met, I found a network marketing company. I had a mentor. I started getting exposed to personal development. And I was just woo! As soon as someone was going to pick me up, I was going to do the work and do it. And I stuck to my nutrition plan like glue. And I would be in Equinox doing a workout class. And he was supposed to be working out too. And I would come out of the class to check where he was. And he'd be down in the bar. Because the one in Irvine had a bar and was all nice. And I just knew. And after a while, I was coming home later. I was like not showing up for our relationship. I wanted to be more with other people than I was with him. And it just came to a point where like, you know, we weren't sleeping together, you know, we've been married for like 6 months. And I was like, what is even the point of this? And our friends group completely changed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you don't feel like you're the best version of yourself and you want to keep growing around that person, then something needs to shift. And it may not be a new partner. It may be going in and doing some work on the relationship, but something has to change.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's better to break away than to try and look for the grass is always greener on the other side first.
Yes, 100%.
So what's your thoughts on getting back with someone after they've cheated on you or they have been unfaithful?
So I do not believe that once, like the phrase once a cheater, always a cheater. Mm-hmm. That is not true. Now, is it true for some people? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like, of course, something is true for all people, like some people, but it's not true for everybody. And affairs and infidelity, they do not happen in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen out of nowhere. And the person was like, you know what? I'm going to cheat on my partner today. And then they like go out and find someone and they're like, do you want to have sex? Cool, let's go. Like, yes,
yeah.
It's something that develops over a lack of time. Something is not right in the relationship when it happens. And so it's really up to you of if you value the relationship enough to figure out what that was and heal through and forgive your partner, or you can just kind of stay in denial and think it was just them and walk away. Because even if you decide to leave the relationship, it's still really helpful to figure out what happened.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to bring our same shitty patterns into our next relationship. And then we have that whole thing of like, why do all my partners cheat on me?
Mm-hmm.
If all your partners cheat on you, it may not necessarily be always them.
Right. And
you know?
And it could be who you're picking. Like you could be picking the same type of person.
Right.
But still, that's something to look at in ourselves. I think so often it's easy to point fingers and just be like, oh, well, they're all just cheaters. Mm-hmm. And it's like, hey, that may be the case, but let's for a minute take a peek at what we're doing to contribute to it.
Right. So it's taking the responsibility almost of why your partner did cheat.
Yeah. And it's not that it's your fault.
No, but just to figure it out.
Right? Yeah. Like what role did you play?
Mm-hmm. And I guess it depends on each level of cheating on how much, whether you're going to bring them back into your life or whether you're going to depart.
Right. Like, was it a 6-month affair of lies and deceit? Or like, did he make out with somebody at a bar?
Right. Did he get super drunk and make out with somebody at like a bar somewhere? Or does this person have like a second family that you are not completely aware of? Or like, did they disappear and you found them in Vegas in like a hotel room full of like hookers and cocaine? There's a whole level of variance there around cheating. And it's all about what the relationship is like and whether or not both partners want to reconcile and work on their relationship.
Totally. Okay. So let's talk about sex.
Okay.
How often are couples doing it? And like, what is the protocol? How do you get your excitement up? Because like, for me personally, like, I'm awful. I prefer to work. And if it's like gone too late, I'm like, oh, like I'm tired. Like you have to do a lot for me to get in the mood. So is there a way that, you know, you can help yourself, and how often are people even having sex?
So the number one question we get about sex is how often should we be having sex to have a good relationship?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's no answer to that. There isn't, because every relationship is different. When people ask us that, my favorite thing to do is I say 15 to 20 times a week and just watch their face just go white.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. Have you asked your partner is the second thing I ask, because if between them and their partner, if they want to have sex once a year and that's enough for them, great, do it once a year. Get crazy and do it twice a year, one time, like whatever. If you want to have sex twice a day and your body will withstand that, great, go do that. If that's what makes you and your partner happy, it's all completely subjective. No one and no relationship is better or worse due to the amount of times they have sex, as long as both partners are happy.
And then as far as getting turned on and getting in the mood, it's something that again, I wish we taught about, because especially women, our bodies are so complex, and our brains have to be fully involved in what's going on for us to actually get turned on. So that's why, like, when you talk about work, I totally relate to that. Kyle's probably like, yeah, I know. I will, there are some nights where I'm like, I would just rather work on this pitch that we're sending. Like, it's just, it feels better to me. So the best thing to do is to figure out what your accelerators are. So what are the things that get your engine going? Maybe it is a transitional thing, like a bath or a foot rub, or something that kind of takes you out of the go, 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 go space and brings you into that relaxing space. And then that can kind of allow you to even be open to the idea. But a lot of times we don't even know, as women especially, what turns us on. We don't take the time to figure it out.
It's harder to get the outcome at the end.
Yes, exactly. So if we can figure that out, that helps first and foremost. And are you enjoying what you're trying to get turned on to go do? Because if you're not enjoying it, why would you want to go do it?
Right. So for people who are listening that maybe just don't even enjoy it because maybe they're not even getting the outcome I want. I know a lot of, girls between 20 and 30 might not even be having an orgasm after it. And most men, they don't care. It's fine. I had a guy once that, because I wouldn't finish him off, he like put his clothes on and stormed out my bedroom. And I'm like, oh, it's not going to happen for me. So like, you're out. He's like, what? You've got me all turned on now? And like, you're not going to do anything? I'm like, dude, like, get out.
Whoa.
So it's about empowering the girls to say like, hey, like, you don't, like, it's about the two of us. But I feel some girls are just scared because they really want the guy to like finish. And it's like, oh, as long as you finish, like, it's fine and, whatever. So how do you kind of explore that to get yourself to have an orgasm as a female?
Well, I think the first thing to focus on is letting go of what TV, movies, books, music, society has told you for history. Take history out of this. Sex is not about orgasm. It is about having intimacy. If we take the reliance on the outcome that you just framed out of it, just to enjoy having sex. Turns out it feels really, really good when you're not racing to get somewhere, or you're not trying to achieve a goal or whatever, some sort of measurable, quantifiable limit. Just sit still and enjoy it and try that and start there and stop worrying so much about the outcome. And that requires a partner, male or female, who's also like-minded and can be comfortable not relying on an outcome, because it puts a whole pressure on everyone.
And also, most men don't get any education on pleasuring a female partner. And we need to, as women, take responsibility for educating them when we're in the moment. So I think very often we just kind of expect that they know certain things, and they don't. Most men that we talk to when we're working with heterosexual couples, they don't know that just vaginal intercourse, most women do not orgasm through. We know that, like, duh. But so many men that we talk to are like, oh, you don't?
I didn't know that it was proper etiquette, so to speak, to make sure one's nails are trimmed before being intimate with a girl until I was 23 years old.
Ouch.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And the first person that told me that, I was like, holy shit, that makes sense. But because I don't have that anatomy, I'm not going to figure that out on my own. How would I? How could I? And then some magical person was like, hey, just an FYI, I would appreciate this. And I was like, no shit, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, that's more cleanly, like less scratching, like
everything.
Yeah, no cuts. Yeah, so we have to, and men too, need to take that responsibility of telling our partners, whether they're our long-term partners or it's just a one-night partner or anywhere in between, tell them what we like and what we don't like, and give them advice about cutting their nails and all of those things. And really it starts with women educating themselves.
Yeah.
Because, I run this program, it's called Ladies and Libidos, and we go over our anatomy. And when we go over anatomy, I teach about the clitoris being shaped like a wishbone. And almost every woman, I would say 9 out of 10 women, are blown away and do not know that the clitoris is shaped like a wishbone. They think that it is the tiny little dot that is present, and that's it. And it actually goes down around the sides and has so much more feeling than they think. And so it's things like that where, because our culture sucks and because we don't teach this stuff, we need to educate ourselves so that then we can pass it on to our partners. And they can educate themselves too, but we need to take that responsibility.
Yeah, and it's having the confidence too to tell someone what you like. Because it's like when you're there and they're doing something, you're like, whoa, what are they doing? Like, what? I don't know where you learned this, but like, this is not what goes on. Like,
probably porn.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably porn. And it's like, how do you have that? What's the best angle to be like, I mean, it sounds really obvious to just say, hey, I don't like that. But like in a way that's not going to, a guy can sometimes get upset because he feels like he's the man and I got these moves going and you're like, hell, your moves are all over the place. So like, how do you say that in a nice way without breaking them down?
This is fine. I like this more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the, hey, can we try this?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're not doing it,
where did you learn that?
Then it's totally okay to have the conversation of like, hey, you know that one thing you were doing, like the weird side to side thing? I really didn't like that. I really loved everything else. I loved our time together. That one thing though, for whatever reason, just did not feel good. Can we not do that moving forward?
Yeah, perfect.
But in the moment, just kind of redirect.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh, could you do what you were doing before again?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go to the next move.
Yeah. Flip me over. Well,
it's the one thing guys really want is to know that they are pleasuring their partners. That's almost better than, orgasm itself. It's knowing that you're a successful partner is something that guys really attach to. And so if there's guidance to be had, it's more than welcome.
Yeah. And I really love what you said earlier about like just enjoying sex and not kind of going for the orgasm and being in your head. So, if you've had like kind of like maybe sexual trauma in the past, like my very first casting that I went to, I was 17 years old and it wasn't a casting. It turned out that it was actually a pedophile and he kind of did inappropriate. He didn't like sexually assault me, but I had to do weird things like stand in my underwear and touch my toes and like kick my legs in the air. And I had a couple of other things that happened to me after that with somebody else. And I feel like that is definitely like a mental thing in my head.
Yeah.
So how do you, this is just, it's great. I got you two on the phone. I may as well ask you this question. How do you, when you're having, you're having sex and you're being intimate with a person, kind of detach what's happened before to be able to allow your body to go there?
So the first thing is healing from whatever trauma has happened. I think that unfortunately, so many of us have gone through something that we didn't want or that was uncomfortable and left some sort of mental or emotional scar. Mm-hmm. And so healing from that and doing the work that's necessary to heal from that would be the first piece. But then even after healing, it's still really hard to let go in the moment. And so my best recommendation is to practice. So masturbate. What do you think about when you're masturbating? If you need to think about that when you're with somebody else and it helps you kind of get in the right headspace, cool. That's okay. No one knows what's happening in your head. Like, it is totally okay to go where you need to go mentally. And hopefully eventually you can be more present, but it's really hard for women. We have to be completely gone out of our head to be able to have an orgasm. Right. And so, whatever you need to visualize in order to get there, figure that out on your own and then bring that into the bedroom.
And from the guy's perspective, because I've had a few relationships, actually, women who've undergone sexual trauma, tell us, if you're at a place where you have healed, which is ideal, tell us everything. What are your triggers? What are not? What, like, the information is so helpful for us, because one of the things that a lot of guys do is try to plan something surprising, right? And I'll never forget this. It was like a 4th or 5th date with a girl that I had just started seeing. And I thought it'd be really romantic to drive out to this secluded forest spot that has this really great moon view. And she was acting super weird the entire time. And I was like, well, this is a really weird date. And so we ended up going home way early. And so about 3 weeks later, she shares with me that she was attacked in a dark forest. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I would have loved to have known that before I put you in a trigger situation. But, you know, I was like 19 years old to 20 years old, something like that. Like, we weren't at the emotional maturity level to share something like that. But had I known, I would not have put her in that environment. And that's the kind of information that guys would really need in those types of situations.
Yeah, it's being brave enough to be upfront, because there could be something that maybe someone did in the past to you, like the way that they groped you or the way that they touched you or where they touched you, that you're like, you know, that's just a no-go area.
Yeah.
So talking about masturbating, lots of like men, I feel like, do it all the time.
Yep.
And you said it's the first step to really letting go. And I've heard this over and over by so many different therapists, and so many people have told me, I can't get down with it. I just can't. It's just, I don't know if it's just not in me. So what advice would you give someone like me or any of our listeners who are like, oh, the thought of like masturbating just like sounds gross?
What is it about it that sounds gross?
I think just playing with myself. I mean, yeah. Like, I would love to, I'm happy playing on my phone or like doing stuff, like nothing about it interests me at all.
Okay, so my advice would be to try and find a toy where you don't have to make physical contact with your body. Mm-hmm. If the hang up is kind of like, I don't need to like put my fingers and I like feel around and I'm not like, cool. There are so many toys where you can be inches away from what's going on and still figure out what feels good and explore, and you don't have to make any physical contact. And that would be my best piece of advice.
Yeah, I think that's so right, actually, because sometimes when it's your own hands and you're like feeling both sides, maybe that's kind of like what's throwing you off a little bit.
Totally. Well, it's a bizarre feeling, and we're so shamed as young women to not do it that it sets up this kind of mental block around it for a lot of us, which is totally messed up, because both men and women, well, like babies, do you know that we all start masturbating at 18 months old?
Wow, I did not.
18 months old. It's how we self-soothe. And yet as we get older, our parents start to say things like, get your hands out of your pants, don't do that. Instead of saying like, hey, little Johnny, we're at the grocery store. We don't put our hands in our pants at the grocery store. They're like, just don't do it. And so then we take that as a child as like, oh, this is bad. I don't do this anymore. And then that stays with us. And then we're like, 32 and can't masturbate.
Yeah, no, that's so true, because we're so grown up. And even as a teenager, I remember being like, guys wank themselves off. So, like, there was never a thing that like girls put their fingers in themselves. Like,
right.
Never. Like, it really wasn't. Looking back, it was like, oh yeah, he's probably just gonna go jerk off to that picture or whatever. But no, not one girl would be like, oh, I'm just gonna go home and masturbate to this. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, getting a toy is a great way to kind of like bridge that gap, and then you can kind of start to see like, oh, I actually like it with this. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe I'll try another toy or whatever, and then at least you're getting that time with yourself.
Totally. One other question. You talk about the couples therapy system being broken. And I just want you to kind of go into that, because I've done a couple of therapy sessions with my boyfriend and with like past people. And yeah, I mean, what's your thought of it?
Okay, so here's why it's broken. Our whole culture views therapy as a reactive thing to a problem instead of being proactive. So if you told somebody, yeah, I went to therapy with my boyfriend, their response would probably be, what's wrong? Instead of, oh, I went to therapy with my boyfriend. Oh, cool. What are you guys learning and working on? So the whole setup of having to wait until there is a problem to react to is why it's broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's so true. I remember when I first got my boyfriend to come with me, he's like, but everything's fine. I'm like, one, it's not fine. And like, two, like, let's go in. Yeah.
Well, and even the model itself, coming for X amount of months, X amount of sessions, and then you'll be better someday. That doesn't really work. And additionally, the divorce rate is still around 50% for like the last 20 years. If you took your car to a mechanic, but he's like, hey, half the cars I fix break anyway, would you want to keep going to that mechanic? No, he's not doing a good job. The system itself has not updated to our current culture, I think is the biggest issue, is that we don't do things the way we used to anymore. And we don't do things the way we did 5 years ago anymore. We're moving way faster than our society has ever been supported for. And so around relationships, there's just not a lot of modern tools out there.
Yeah, and what's really sad is that there's been research for over 50 years on what makes relationships succeed and fail. And all of that is behind this brick wall of you have to have a master's degree to access it. And that's why we started our business, was to be able to teach people those tools in a fun, exciting way without having to wait until there's a problem. It's like, why don't you come in when things are awesome so we can have a great time? You can fill up your toolbox and then take that toolbox with you for the rest of your relationship. And you don't have to end up going once a week and sit on a couch.
Mm-hmm. So where did you guys learn from? Like, who were your mentors? What like made you be like, we can help people?
So personally, what do you want to go?
No,
you inhaled. Go ahead.
Well, we started the business off of the structure that we put into our own relationship. And this is the issue, is that, you know, I tried to go to college 5 times. It clearly is not for me. Rachel, however, has a master's degree. And so when we moved in together, like 7 months into our relationship, we were fighting about all the dumb things. She wanted to go to Costco one Sunday. I didn't want to go to Costco ever, and like all these things. And so we kept having a very similar fight over and over and over again. And so eventually what would happen is that I would get really flooded in our arguments and start not saying really what I meant. I was having a really hard time articulating myself. And so she came to me and said, can I teach you some tools so you can say what you mean when you're really frustrated? And I was like, please, all I want is to be told how to communicate effectively. And we did, and things started going a lot better. And then we realized that here I am, you know, I'm intelligent, I'm hardworking, I want to have a great relationship. I don't have access to tools like that, and I would never have had access to tools like that if I didn't have a wife with a master's degree, or at the time a girlfriend with a master's degree in the education around relationships. This information's not out there in any context.
And there I was in private practice seeing couples come in over and over and over again with the same problems. And I was like, why are we waiting until they are ready to leave each other? Like, they would come in and they're like, here's 10 years of resentment that's built up over time. It's like going to the dentist and your teeth are like ready to fall out already. Like,
yeah, no, you can't do anything by then. Like,
exactly.
Exactly. Like, by that point, it's like, take them all out. Like, you got to get a whole new mouth. You can't do anything.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's like that with relationships. And so it was Kyle's idea, actually, to take what I had taught him and put it into like a packet, because I was in person with everybody. So we had like a packet. It was like this thick, of like a half an inch, for those of you who can't see, of information and tools. And so I started giving it to all my clients, and they stopped coming in.
And they almost killed their business in one day.
And it was like the best feeling ever, because I knew that they were being helped, but we realized we had a new problem, which was no money.
We just fixed all their problems and killed the business overnight.
And I realized that I could do that, but I needed Kyle, because Kyle was the one that could actually translate it from like clinical academic psychobabble to like normal people talk. And so we were able to collaborate, and I was like, well, let's go into business together. And we did.
And we did.
Wow, that's awesome. I love you guys. You're just absolutely fab, and thank you for being so raw and open and just giving us all the juice. So if someone wants to work with you, or they want to have more information, like where can they find you?
So 2 places. Our website is great. It has a shit ton of free resources and tons of information. It's rightwellnesscenter.com, WRIGHT. And then our Instagram handles are probably the best place to reach us, which they're so corny. They're the same, but just with the different names. So it's the right_Rachel and the right_Kyle, right with a W.
Yep.
Awesome. And give us one more tip that you would give to our listeners for having a healthy relationship.
Be silly. Be so silly with each other. Talk about poop, talk about the weird things. Just, who cares? You're at home together. Like, your relationship can be whatever you want it to be, and why not make it as fun as possible?
Awesome.
And I'd say communicate.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, communicate.
Thank you.
Be silly. We're going to put all of your links in the YouTube description and on the podcast as well. So make sure that you check them out. Thanks for joining me today on the It Takes Grit podcast. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.